Good morning, boys and girls. This is Miss Jenkins, your art teacher from Roberts. I'm here with you today to work on a line monster in the spirit of the month of October and everything that is kooky and creepy. We're going to make ourselves a watercolor monster, and we're going to explore different kinds of line, which is one of the elements of art that we're going to be focusing on. So here's an example for you. Let's first talk about materials. You'll need a white piece of paper, something specifically a little bit thicker than your normal average thinner paper, or a thicker piece of construction paper would be fine, because we're going to do watercolors, so we need it to be a little bit thicker. You'll need some watercolor paint. You'll need some water, so you can dip your brush in the water. You'll need a paintbrush. You'll need a pencil, a black marker, and then you'll need some colored markers so that you're able to decorate whatever accessories you're going to be making for your monster. All right, so let's get started. So you want to go ahead and align your paper to be vertical like this. Portrait view is what we call it. That's where the paper is taller rather than wide. So you want it like this, nice and tall. And then using your pencil, and I'm going to use my marker just so you can see what I'm doing very clearly, but you should be using a pencil. You can make sort of the top of your monster however you want to make it, but the thing that you definitely want to do is you want to make sure that it's not just this rectangle shape only. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to add like this curved shape on both sides, and notice it stops. Like basically the rest of the curve or the rest of the line becomes the edge of the left and right side of the paper. And I'm just doing that so I can sort of create like a top portion, like the head portion. And on my first one I had just these like ears, but on the second one, on this one, I'm just gonna do ears, but then I'm gonna kind of do a spiky head space, the top there. And you can do that if you want to, or you can do something else at the top, but you really won't do anything down here necessarily with the bottom part, but we do want to create some kind of feature that makes it look like the top of a head. All right, after we've done that, this is now where you're going to do watercolor paint, okay? And with watercolor, you want to make sure that you're dipping your brush fully into the water, and then you're activating your color really well. And when I say activating color, I mean if it's not really wet and it's still too dry when you lay it down, then that means you haven't activated it enough. So you see how I'm kind of stirring in there? And now it's getting really, really wet, okay? Now, you can go ahead and paint right on top of your lines that you used to create the top of your monster, okay? That's totally, totally fine. Now, we want this to be wet, but not so wet that it takes forever to dry, because the next step requires it to be fairly dry. So you can see I've done kind of my line like that with my color. Now I'm going to move into a second color. So I cleaned my brush with the water, and then I dipped it in the water again, and now I'm over here with my orange, and I'm going to go ahead and create my orange stripe. You could also do this with tempera paint, by the way, which is not watercolor at all, but if you have tempera paint, you can totally do this with tempera paint. So now I'm gonna do this lime green color, again, dipping my brush in the water really, really well, making sure I'm really activating my paint. Really want a lot of paint on my brush. And here's my lime green stripe, and I'm just kind of going back and forth. Now I'm not going over one area for too long, because if I keep rubbing the paper like that, it will actually cause the paper to possibly tear, like start to rip away at it piece by piece. So once an area is filled with your color, don't even worry about don't worry about going over it again. Just go over it, just as long as you need to add more color to it. All right, now I'm going to go to my blue, and I'm going to end up doing most of the colors from the color wheel, or most of the colors from the rainbow as you know it. And that's just because I want to have a lot of variety of colors in my monster. You don't have to do stripes. You can also do like wavy if you want to. If you wanted to have like polka dots or something as part of your background watercolor area, that would be okay as well. What you don't want to do though is have too much detail with the watercolor part or with the painting part, because you want to leave room to be able to add your different kinds of line that we're going to explore in a little bit here. So I'm going to add one more color. Let's do yellow. Alrighty, and that is my final color. Okay, now I am done with my painting. So I'm going to put my brush away, cover my water up, or move it out of the way so I don't accidentally spill it. And now I've got my monster. Now, because I'm going to move on, I'm going to do this just to kind of help it dry a little bit faster. But for you, you'll want to wait till it dries. A really good way to dry paper is to use a blow dryer. If mom has a blow dryer or if dad has a blow dryer, you can use a blow dryer to dry it a little bit. So mine's dry enough now. Now you're going to take your pencil or your black marker, if you feel confident enough to do that, and you're going to start exploring from left to right different types of line. And just because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections doesn't mean I can only have 7 types of line. I can add as many lines as I want. As a matter of fact, in this one, the one I already did, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kinds of colors, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different kinds of line. Now, a line is something that starts at point A and ends at point B, and it's continuous. However, a line can be a pattern, like it can be a broken line, which is something I'm going to show you here in a minute. So line is not just a straight line as we know it, okay? So this is not the only thing that's considered line, okay? Line can also be wiggly. You can do a wiggly line. Line can also be spiky, like dinosaur teeth. Line can be curly. Okay. Line can be like a lightning bolt striking. Line can be very soft, long waves. Line can also be like the curved waves at the beach. Line can be broken up, so I'm going to do a polka dot line. So 1, 2, 3 small ones and a bigger one. 1, 2, 3 small ones and a bigger one. Now you guys remember, I know that sometimes it seems like I'm going too fast. What's your job? You hit pause. You stop. After I do one line, you pause the video, you do your line, and then you hit play again to see the next one, okay? That is how a video works. So just remember, this doesn't have to be all about you keeping up with me exactly as fast as I'm going. Nope, that's not what we're doing. You pause, you do it at your own speed, and then you press play again. So, all right, so we've got a broken dotted line. Line can also appear like construction, like I'm thinking of Legos when I make this line. Line can also be like the lines that we see in the street for lanes, for different lanes, different sides of the street. Sometimes they have these broken lane lines. And finally, I'm gonna do a little bit more complicated here, but maybe you can do this too. Curve and curl at the top, come down to the bottom, curve back over, come back to the top, curve over, down, curve, up, curve, down, curve, up, curve, down, up, and you can see how Miss Jenkins did that one. So now we have our awesome line design all over our precious monster. The next thing you're gonna do is take another piece of paper or a scrap of paper, okay? It's like whatever you have around, and you're going to draw a few things. Now, if you have something circular, like this sharpener, for example, it has a circular base. You remember we did this before when we did our Kandinsky drawing painting. We used different circular things to create our circles. So you can use a sharpener, for example, or something circular. I would say a quarter is probably too small. So you want to think about tracing around something that's slightly bigger so that we have big, like exaggerated eyes on our monster. The next thing you're going to do, and I would say the mouth is going to be the same size as both eyes together. So for the mouth, I'm going to do a straight line like that. And keep in mind that I'm not using a ruler, but you should if you need to do that to make your straight line. And then a happy face mouth at the bottom, okay? And then just like we did this zigzag line here and at the top of the head, we're gonna do the same thing down here under this line. So up, down, and then we're gonna do the same thing down here on the curved line. Up, down, up, down. Cool, right? Now what you're gonna do is you're going to color in everything that isn't the teeth, okay? So using your black marker, you're going to color in whatever isn't the teeth. And boys and girls, if you can't find a black marker, you can do this with black Crayola crayon, or you can do this with black color pencil. A marker will just be sort of the darkest. And when you're coloring with marker, you want to do a little bit of overlapping when you're coloring so that you don't have something that looks too scribbly, okay? Like that. So you overlap a little bit. You don't overlap so much that you're like rubbing the paper away when you're using marker, but you overlap just enough to fill in all the gaps, okay? Because we do want sort of a solid black inside the mouth, in between those teeth. And then for the two big circles for the eyes, we're also going to add a smaller circle inside. Now this circle would be about the size of a quarter, so you could definitely use a quarter or something similar in size to fill in the smaller circle, to trace the smaller circle, and then you're going to fill it in with your black marker so that now we have pupils inside our monster eyes. Okay, the next thing you're gonna do is in this girl monster, I had created a flower barrette to put in her hair, but you can do anything you wanna do. You can do a bow tie or two bows that look like this that could be on either side of the hair. You could do a tie, like a man's tie, or a bow tie, a man's bow tie. So if you were to do a bow tie, it would be a circle in the middle, and it'd be almost very close to two sort of sideways triangles, okay? So that would be a bow tie or two bow barrettes, okay? If you wanted to do a man's necktie, it would be a triangle like this with a circle, and then it would come down at an angle, and then it would come down to a point like that. So you have different things you could actually add to your monster. So once you are done with your pieces, you will then cut them out. And remember to hold your scissors correctly. Your thumb goes in the top smaller hole, and your 2 or 3 other fingers go in the bigger hole, and your thumb is always what's on top. And you spin that paper, turn that paper to help you cut nicely. And one of the things I like to do when I'm cutting something is I like to cut away all the excess paper that I don't really need at that moment, because it's easier to cut something when it's smaller. Instead of having to cut around a very large sheet, you can just cut around the smaller object. So I've got eye number 1, eye number 2 coming up. Remember, pause the video and take your time to cut nicely. And I think I just realized that I didn't remember to tell you to add glue, but you also need a glue stick so you can actually attach your stuff. So I'm going to attach my eye by putting glue stick. And glue sticks, boys and girls, is this right? Does that look right to you for it to be that much out? Definitely not, okay? Only just a little bit of it is showing, and that's all I really need, because otherwise it breaks or it becomes too much. Now, you can also put your eyes on there to make sure they're kind of centered and in the right place before you actually attach them. So you can sort of test it out first. So I've got my 2 eyes, and I'm gonna hold it down, because glue is not magic. You have to actually hold it down. And then I'm gonna add glue to my mouth. And I'm gonna put that just below. And there's my monster mouth. Isn't that fun? And then, let's see, I'm gonna do a bow tie for my monster, like a boy's bow tie. And I'm gonna put that right down here. And then what I'm gonna do with it is I'm going to add a pattern to it. So I'm gonna do it's something called argyle. It's where it's kind of like checkers or like cross hatching marks. You do like that, and then you could just fill in every other square with a color, but no 2 squares are touching directly on top of each other or next to each other. They're only touching at the corners, okay? And that kind of creates a cool pattern on the bow tie. And as a matter of fact, my husband definitely has a bow tie that is this pattern. And I think it's blue and white. Okay, so I'm filling that in, almost done. Okay, the last thing you're going to do, my friends, before you end your project is to cut on top on the line where we had actually made the top of the head. So this is where you're going to cut. And notice how I turn my paper for every time I'm cutting my new angle. I turn my paper nicely with my scissors. It's a lot easier to cut this way than to try to like turn your wrist all the way around, okay? Scissor skills are something you are going to learn a lot about in kindergarten. So boom and boom. And voila, we have our monster man. Isn't that cute? I hope you enjoyed this project, and I can't wait to see what you create. Well done, boys and girls. Love you guys. Bye.